Hey y'all, Brother Damon Chief Jones here. Hey, got no time for trolls. Hey, before I forget, I promised this guy a shout out. Let me make sure I say his name right. Nigel Frazier. Nigel Frazier. Big supporter, big PayPal contributor, thank you. I always got the trolls after me like, oh, you're poor and begging for money. I ain't begging for money. That's just a bunch of BS. Let me get my camera a little straighter here. Good. Anyway, if you contributed to PayPal at any time for my traveling expenses, hotels, eats, gas, repairs to my truck, all these things cost money. So I already know all this stuff. I've already done all this stuff. It ain't nothing new to me. I'm just trying to educate the public. But I can't educate the public out of my own pocket. I got everyday life expenses for me and my family. Okay? I have enough money to pay my bills, about like the average, ordinary, everyday people. I got a little spare change left over. That's it. Okay? Just the reality of it. So when people want me to go here, want me to go there, they send me emails. Sometimes they comment and ask me things, but a lot of things people do in private because they don't want the trolls, the grown men and women in their mom and daddy's basements that's 30, 40, 50 years old that was a lifelong college student, or they couldn't fit into society, so now they got an electronic voice. And they say all kind of crazy things to you on here that they would never dare say to your face, because you'd probably clock them. You clean up with them. So a bunch of people tell me a bunch of crap, and I actually come up on somebody here recently that had made a lot of negative comments, and I happened to be around another auditor, and they knew who that person was. And I went up to him and I said, hey, I just want to let you know that I know you're so-and-so and you made all these negative comments. Since I'm live and in person, what do you want to say to me? Well, crawfish, talk big on the computer, a itty-bitty man in real life. So just keeping it real. The reason for this video is multifold. One, auditors need to know that it is very good to have a relationship with a bail bond agent, with some agency. Whatever areas you're going to work in, it's very important to have a working relationship with them. Have their card with their 24-hour-a-day number, not their normal business number, but if they have a special 24-hour day, that you got a specific agent you deal with, a specific number. Make sure that they work in the jurisdictions you're going to, so that hopefully if you get kidnapped by a 5-0, then you can ring a number and somebody can come down and get you out. Depending on where you are, that could be 30 minutes to 8 hours. Okay? Most places like where I worked, people was in and out in 2 hours or less. Okay? That's from the time you walked in the back door at the jail to the time they walked out. And a third of that time or more was their bail bond agent doing the process. Okay? And a lot of times, we didn't even put them in a jumpsuit. They was just in a holding cell. They didn't just get that one phone call. They could make 2 or 3 phone calls, 9 out of 10. However much time was allotted, they could make the phone calls. It wasn't a problem. Okay? But over time, law enforcement, or should I say real peace officers, got sucked into this law enforcement mentality. There is a night and day difference in a constitutional peace officer, his authority and duties, and a law enforcement. Law enforcement is like, we see very narrow, exact word for word. Okay? And in reality, when the legislature in a state or our national government passes a law then some publication company takes that and they take it away to their writers. And their writers rewrite the law, and sometimes the meanings are lost in the rewrited copyright law. So when you get a law book from West Publishing or ABC Publishing, XYZ Publication Company, it'll tell you it's copyrighted, they own the rights to it. So in essence, when a city, county, state writes this here, if they're utilizing that code or that rule that's in a statute, it's been converted from a law to a statute so that it can be, quote, copyrighted, they actually owe a copyright fee to the company for using their copyrighted material. Believe it or not. It just is an exercise, but it could be, and one day it probably will be. There'll be some slick attorneys that'll figure out how these publication companies can charge all these, quote, law enforcement agencies and court systems for using their copyrighted law. Okay? So, if the legislature says you got to do these 5 things to commit a crime, and it's got to be in this sequence in this certain way, and then you get a copyrighted person that says so long as these 5 things are done, well, you took it out that it had to be in sequence. So, a really smart attorney, especially a common law lawyer, which that's a whole explanation itself, if they go back to the Secretary of State's office and they pull the original legislation that was passed and look in this law book and look at this here, they will find the differences. And they can actually take that because the Secretary of State has attested that this is a legal, lawful document of the legislature, and they can take it into court and say what you've been charged with ain't a law. It's in a law book that's copyrighted, but the actual law the legislature passed that you as a man or woman are responsible to is not there. Okay. Now, I get sidetracked. I'm sorry about that. Some people say, wow, I like how you jump around. You're like a soap opera. You jump from one storyline to the next, to the next, to the next. Some people love it. Some people hate it. It's just how my mind works. That makes me good. That makes some people love me. Some people hate me. If you love me, great. If you hate me, great. I don't care. Okay. Anyway, we did great over at Alamos Park. I call it Almost Gone Park, Texas. They repealed their law. It caused some other jurisdictions in Texas to repeal their laws because it wasn't consistent with state law. Okay, so did the auditors and the activists have a positive effect? Oh, yeah. In fact, a lot of true constitutional peace officers in Texas, which are the elected constables and sheriffs, in some places are really waking up, and we've had more success with certain constables' offices, okay? And some people think constables were glorified security guards, but in fact, only sheriffs, constables, and Texas Rangers are constitutional conservatives of the peace. And they were put in place by the people. They got the maximum lawful authority, and they are true peace officers, and they are elected by the people, which means if you don't like them, you can put somebody else in that you do like, that you say understands the law. So you got more control over them than any other police in the state, and they wield a lot of authority because they're constitutional. But you got some that are like the ones that's been jacking around with Mexican Padilla, which I support, and he knows the law. Now, I'm not one to use profanity as it's understood. I know what all the real meanings of the words are, and I know if you use it right or you use it wrong, okay? Like the word nigger means a socially undesirable person, okay? I don't like that word. It's not a word that I choose to use. Have I used it? I've used it hundreds of times, but I've used it in true context. There's a lot of niggers in the world, meaning socially undesirable men and women. Okay, got nothing to do with the color, got nothing to do with your religion. If you use it in its true meaning, but it's been bastardized from meaning Negro, changed into nigger. a derogatory term back in slave days, okay? But if it's used in its true context, it's a proper word, okay? Anyway, I know all these things like people say, fuck you, okay? That fuck means intercourse. That can be sexual intercourse or it can be state intercourse. Like I told you, if Texas is doing business with New York City and they're transporting stuff from Texas to New York and vice versa, they're fucking each other. They're having intercourse. It's commerce intercourse. Okay, so this is part of my educational channel to teach people that words have meanings and meanings have words. And if you use a Webster's 1828 dictionary, it doesn't look like a dictionary today. But the words still have the same meanings, but they've changed them. Okay, so learn these things. You need to know, just like in Texas, another thing auditors need to know. 3802 is very strong in the Texas Penal Code. The police know what it means, but the police misapply it all the time. Sometimes because they're stupid and they wasn't trained correctly. So their supervisors was wrongly trained and their supervisors wrongly trained, and you go back 20 or 30 years, people's been wrongly trained for years on end. Okay? And people said, why did cops back in the 40s and 50s used to be different? Well, there was not organized training, so it was not a mastermind system. In the late 60s and early 70s, most states had some sort of certification or licensing programs where they would certify or license, like plumbers, electricians are licensed. Peace officers in Texas, quote, even Constitution are licensed. I disagree with that because that's a privileged occupation. Well, if you're elected by the people, you don't need to be licensed if you're elected by the people. That's like, well, we're going to license our mayors. That's bullcrap, okay? But anyway, people that come from other states going to Texas, they got a strong 3802 on IDing, okay? Some states say that you got to give a name and an address. It doesn't say the name that's on your birth certificate specifically. So if you're known as Jack Robin, well, who are you? Well, I'm Jack Robin. And you could get a dozen people to go into court and swear, well, that's Jack Robin. That's the way I've known him his whole life. So that's how you're known. It's not your name on a birth certificate, but it says your identification. That's how you're known. Okay? And it says your date of birth. Well, you can't give first-hand information as to your date of birth because you was new, so you didn't know. You had no cognitive knowledge as to when you was born. So that's hearsay. All right? So they're just going on a birth certificate hoping that it was correct. Okay? Only your mom and daddy usually knows, and if the doctor's alive that delivers you and can remember you specifically from when you was a baby, and they can say, I know who he is. Well, really, that's going to get down to your mama or daddy that was there when you was delivered. Okay. Anyway, you need to know the state law in the state you live in. And say if people in Texas, say if they go off to Georgia, or they go to Nebraska, or they go to California, they got different stop and ID laws. You need to read the law. You need to look at a little case law and see in that jurisdictions how they've interpreted in the past and see if you want to go along with that or you want to be a test case to challenge that. Okay? Because you may be a test case and don't even know it. So you need to know the stop and ID law. You need to know that in some places, theoretically, if you write your name on a piece of paper, you write your address, or your name, date of birth, and address, depends on what the law says there, and depends if you want to go along with the case law and what the statute says the way you interpret it, or ask an attorney for an interpretation, and ask your attorney. And that's another thing, you need to have an excellent relationship with some attorney in that jurisdiction, or you need to know the law good enough to go pro se from the time they process you in. Or you can have an attorney of counsel, co-counsel, and you be the lead counsel, which means that they're subordinate to you, but they can give you advice and they can do paperwork at your specific instruction the way you want them to do it. Okay. Also, having a good paralegal that you instruct them specifically what to do, and all they're doing is getting raw paperwork together or doing raw research for you is another good thing as an auditor to have. And people say, well, that's not the correct term. Y'all shouldn't be called auditors. You ought to be called activists or whatever. Well, you call yourself whatever you want to, and I call myself what I want to. I don't like the word activist because it was so bastardized, just like the word nigger was bastardized and the word activist was bastardized. Okay? Back during the 60s and 70s, they say the activists, the agitators. Okay? So it had a negative connotation. So I am active in my community. I'm active in other people's communities at their request, that they say, hey, can you come here and help us with a problem? Okay, I'll go there at your request to help you and to point out wrongdoing. I'm a journalist. I'm a minister. I have a doctoral degree in ministry. And a part of that is publicizing things verbally and in writing, okay? And I ain't going to get into all the isms and schisms, so if you write a bunch of comments about prove this, prove that, I ain't going to go there with you. So no need in writing it. You're just wasting space and time. And if you're an agitator, I'll remove you. If you got a legitimate question, a legitimate statement that says, you disagree with me, I'm going to leave it, just like always, okay? I'm not that thin-skinned. It just sometimes I have other people that view that are a little more sensitive to it, and I try and work with them. So, you know, they say, why are you leaving these comments on there? Well, sometimes I think it's good to debate things, but a healthy debate, not a baiting system. And when I go out, I'm not a baiter. I go out and test the system. Okay, the system has a lot of errors in it, but till a man like me that has credentials goes and says it's wrong, it doesn't carry as much weight. Now, when other people go out and they do these audits, that they're called an audit, and an audit is a checking of the system. It's usually books, like bank books. Bank books are audited, okay? That's a financial auditor. They go out and check bank books, the financial statements, okay? There's auditors of electric systems. They go and audit the system to see if the electric system is working good. The water system, there's auditors. Whether they call them a specialist or whatever, they're testing the system, okay? Well, we're men and women testing the lawful system under our state and national constitution. So if you're a part of the well-regulated militia, which includes every individual man or woman, in my opinion, it doesn't matter from coast to coast, border to border. You can carry a gun on your hip anywhere, anytime. That's my opinion of the Second Amendment. Now, if people don't want to carry a gun, they don't have to. They got the right to exercise the law to carry the gun or not to carry the gun. Okay, that's up to them. That's their preference, okay? So what I'm saying is, if you don't want to carry a gun, then don't. I'm not over there telling you, you must carry a gun. So don't go over here and tell me you must not carry a gun. You have your right to carry it or not to carry it. I got my right to carry it or not carry it. Don't try and push your rights off on me to disenfranchise me of my rights, okay? If you want to live in a world where you give up your safety and your security, okay, you want to give up your liberty, your freedom for this so-called government protection, you're an idiot. Okay? And when you call the police, it could be you that goes to jail. You're the one that called them, and you could wind up going to jail. Then sometimes they got people that call 911 and file false reports. And further, they lie when they get there. And the police don't do nothing to them unless they piss off the police. Now they got this thing, contempt of cop. Well, back in my day, they used to call it a pop charge. And officers would talk among themselves, hey, did Ralph, Officer Ralph, did he pop that guy? Meaning pissing off police. They called him a pop charge. Well, contempt of cop, pissed off the police, same thing, which meant the police used their badge. The badge of public servant of the public trust. You're an officer. Okay? And they give you a gun and let you make life and death decisions on that because supposedly that badge was investigated by other people of good morals, values, and ethics that said, you're qualified to mentally and physically be able to take on this job of peace officer and go out and keep the peace and tranquility in the community and to enforce the laws fairly and equitably to all people. Okay? But you are now stepping outside of that and you're saying, I don't like this man or this woman and they piss me off. That's why it's pissing off police. And so they say, I'm going to take their words and their actions, which are over here and the law's over here and it doesn't match. But I'm going to put them together and I'm going to mix it up and I'm going to lie and I'm going to twist these actions around to be a crime. And anybody that's watching that might testify against me or these other police, then we're going to make up something against them and get them arrested too. So if they get too close, they're videoing, they're audioing, they're witnesses, we're going to jam them up. Okay? That's a pop charge. So us officers used to talk about an officer doing that. If it was found to be true or correct, me, reported it. I told every officer I ever worked with, worked for, or worked under me, if you lie, if you cheat, if you steal, don't count on me to have your back. I'm not doing it. If you're a liar, cheater, and thief, you don't need a badge. You need not to be a cop for starts. Second, if you're going to do these things, then you need to go to jail. Okay? So, if you're telling the truth and if something is honest, I'll put my job, I'll put my life on the line to protect yours. If you're a liar, you're a cheater, you're a thief, I'm turning you in. Because you with that little badge don't make you some special family member and you're better than the guy that lives next door to me or lives down the road. Okay? Let's keep it real. Okay? That's just how I am. I've always been that way. Now, sometimes that got me fired. But the law always got me reinstated, usually within 24 hours. Or they would backtrack and say, well, actually, we didn't fire him. We was talking to him that we might fire him. No, you actually told me I was fired and to turn in my gear. How do you call that not firing somebody? Anyway, I took lawful action against these jurisdictions that did this to me also. So I said, not only can you not have bad cops, if you work against me that's a good cop, I'm going to come after you legally. And I've done it. I have signed some non-disclosure agreements because I didn't know no better in the past. So some things I can't tell you specific, but I can tell you in general. The jurisdictions know they can't have bad cops, and they can't lie on me, and they can't screw with my record. That's how I successfully come up. I could have been where I was years before, but I run my mouth, and I talked about unlawful actions, and I talked about bad policy. And you can't enforce a policy. If you got a law, the law's here. A policy's right down here around nothing. Okay? If the policy and the law aren't the same, it doesn't matter. You can have a policy that says the way we're going to implement this specific law is this certain way. And it's consistent with the law, and it doesn't do away with the law. And it follows the process and it's proper. Anyway, later today and tomorrow, I'm going with another auditor to a few different jurisdictions and locations to do some audits. Now, we might live stream and we might not. We might do it through YouTube, might be through Facebook, might be through live stream, or we may have a closed account where other auditors have access to it so they can see what we're doing. If something goes wrong, they can put out the word, but we'd like to edit and make it professional. Or, of course, well, me, I don't edit no way. One, I don't know how. Number two, if I just show you beginning to end, you're like, hey, that was a long damn video, but he did not cut it into snippets. Then other people said, hell, I wish you would cut it. So you can't please everybody. Look, if you're Donald Trump, some people love you, some people hate you. Okay? If you're Obama, same thing. If you're Nancy Pelosi, same thing. Doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent. Doesn't matter if you're the local cop that most of the people say, hey, you're a good cop and you're a really good guy. And I got your back. Okay? There's going to be some haters out there. No matter if you bend over backwards, turn yourself inside out, and twist around like a pretzel, there's going to be some people that's going to have unrealistic criticism of you. I've been the subject of that many times. I've been over backwards. I've even helped some people, and I've helped them to a large degree. Didn't even get a thank you out of them, and in fact was criticized. But then other realistic people looked back, the other 95%, and said, dang, Chief, not only did you help this man or woman or family, and it cost you your time, it cost them money out of your pocket, and you helped them, and they would have never been able to get the help that they got if it wasn't for you. Not only did they not thank you, they turned around and criticized you. I'd write them off, and I'd make a public statement of what a idiotic man or woman or family this is. It's only happened a handful of times here and yonder, but I said, you know what? My calling's to God. And God said do it, and I did it. And it was the right thing then, it's the right thing now. They're going to have to meet God. They're going to have to deal with the judgment when it comes, just like I have to deal with it, okay? I done what was right, and if they didn't do what's right, it's okay. But I want to say I thank Todd, the press. I thank Jack, Texas Sheepdog 72, Freeman, James Freeman, News Now Houston, News Now Patrick, PNP News. Oh, heck, I'm going to leave somebody out. Mexican Padilla. I'm afraid I'm going to leave somebody out. Bama Camera. For the help, aid, and assistance y'all gave me in phone calls, text messages, emails, private chats, in helping me to learn how to be a better auditor and to learn how to film. Oh, y'all go see Texas Wolfman. He's a young upcoming guy. I mean, well, he's probably closer to my age, but he's a young upcoming guy in YouTube on these audits. Okay, and a lot of people use a very, very strong language, and they use very nasty comments, some of the auditors, and some of these I know, and that's their style, that's their way. I talk slow usually. I try and think about what I'm going to say before it comes out. I'm trying to think about how people's going to look at it and how they're going to react to it. I'm thinking if a judge and jury looks at it, how they might think and how they might act. I'm trying to think of all the factors. Okay? Now, sometimes I do want to tell somebody, F you or USOB or something, and I'm sure everybody does. Whether you're a minister like me or you're the average person, these things run through your mind. It's just a matter if you say, no, I'm not going to say it, or whoop, it skips out. So I'm kind of like Todd, XCSA Prez, okay? I'm not going to criticize another auditor's style, their format, okay? That's not my job. My job is to do my best to help them and support them to get this information out to the public, okay? Because the more people that see it and the more people that hear it, and then they talk around to their 5 or 10 or 20 or 50 friends, or they post to their social media accounts our videos or our conversations, then people begin to wake up and they say, wait a minute, there's actually a law that says you can't do that, and the police are over there doing it. So guess what? Them cops get sanctioned, they get suspended, they get fired, they become a gypsy cop, where they move from place to place. And it ain't, there's a difference in, I work several places, but that's over a damn 40 years. Okay, I think I got a right to work several places. Somebody will say, oh, you're a damn gypsy cop. When I went from one place to another, I went there for better benefits, or I had other things going on in my life where moving from one jurisdiction to another would be closer to my home, or I could drive a truck over the road and go from full-time to part-time for 6 months or a year and get paid my part-time job and keep my standards up. But I drove over the road in a big truck to make money to pay bills, because sometimes my family got big bills. And it wasn't because we was living high on the hog. It's because people got sick and we got medical bills. Certain things come up and you use credit cards and the bills got high. And I could make about an extra maybe 10 or 20,000 a year more on this other job. Plus I could still keep my part-time job so I could make money on it and do some off-duty work. So all of a sudden my salary could double, and I could do it for 6 months or a year and catch everything up and then go back to law enforcement full time. So that happened off and on for about a 14-year period of time. You know, 6 months here, a year or two there. And so, yeah, I've been all over the country, and I've experienced cops in various jurisdictions. And I've experienced courts in various jurisdictions, because when I've been traveling, I've been visiting courts. And if you tell me my video's too long, so what? It's my channel. I do what I want to. You don't like it? Start your own channel. Do your own thing. Okay? I guess the older and longer I'm on here, the more and more, I don't want to be arrogant. I don't want to be cocky. But the trolls, I'm getting to where I'm starting to become immune to trolls and sarcasm and nasty little comments and people saying things on there to try and get them to unsubscribe or whatever. No. But anyway, me and this other auditor for the next day or 2 days, we'll be out gathering all the content we can. And just like Alamos Park, I probably had 15 or 20 clips. Some of them, either my equipment malfunctioned or I punched the wrong button or something happened. Accidents happen. So about seven of the videos that I had, some of them were 5 minutes, some of them were 10 minutes, some of them were better than others, were basically forever lost. Okay? Now I know there's some people that have emailed me and they knew that this was going on and they said, well, send to me what you got. Well, I'd actually have to send my phone to you, and I have to have my phone, so I can't do it. But I have gone to a couple people that are pretty serious computer and electronic gurus, and I've had 2 of them that really knew what they was doing, and they said it's pretty well garbled up. There's very little chance of salvaging anything, and said, you know, if we was the Secret Service, the FBI, they have some, you know, out of this world technology that they could probably piece it 75–80% together. We might get 5 or 10%, but they got some advanced technologies that they can do some things that's out of this world. But unless it's a murder case and it's high profile and it's the right people, you're not going to get them involved to do nothing, especially if it's talking bad about cops even when they acted out and done wrong. Okay? So the Alamos Park, I released stuff over 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. I'd release one, then I'd release another, and part of it was because I didn't want to do it all at one time. I was doing it out in trying to be even points. Part of my videos were sideways or upside down. I don't know what in the heck I'd done. I think I was so excited meeting everybody and People wanted signatures, or not signatures, autographs. They wanted pictures with me. They wanted to be in a video with me. Various things was going on. The one video that I wanted worse than anything was me talking to the chief of San Antonio Police. Our conversation probably wasn't but 2 minutes long, but it was a good 2 minutes. Okay, I mean, I was pretty proud of it, that I felt like he was straight up and honest with me and doing the best he could with the set of circumstances he was dealing with, and that we both agreed, and I would give an affidavit of fact that we both agreed that as chiefs of police, we've had bad apples under our command, and we've had to deal with them in a variety of ways. And he acknowledges that, and I acknowledge it. Okay, and so whether you're in charge of the water department, the electric department, you work at Walmart or wherever, you got management. So whether that's a chief of police, a captain, lieutenant, or you got a store manager or director, in any operation where human beings, common understanding, men and women work together, there's going to be errors. There's going to be errors. Some things aren't going to work right. And there's going to be a lot of people that's going to question the store director, the chairman of the board, the chief of police, the mayor. They're going to question what they do. Okay? If it's not the way you want it, but it's really okay, it's just not what you favor, all right. But if they really get out of line, they really get crazy, then the people in the organization have to work to change it. But when they're in the public sector and they have the ability to arrest you, to take away your freedom, to impound your private automobile, to seize your assets, to do all these sort of things, then it's very different. It elevates way up here. Okay, and something that's going on that I wish somebody would show this portion of my video to President Trump. I've got people supposedly that can really reach out and touch him in a familiar way and say, hey, listen, we need to talk to you and tell you something, or we need you to put some eyes on something, okay? And some of these people supposedly watch my videos. If you do, please get this to President Trump. Dear Mr. President, I know that you had a meeting with chiefs of police, okay, and sheriffs from across the country, and you was asking things they could do, and they wanted you to help them with these fines and forfeitures, but especially seizures, okay? To a point, seizures are righteous and needful, but the way they're applying it and the laws that they're using and trying to implement are wrong, okay? Here goes. Say the way it goes now. Say I'm a detective, I'm a traffic officer, which I don't believe in that anyway, but say we pull somebody over, they got a burnout headlight. Just make something up. Okay? And say I suspect that I smell cannabis, marijuana. Okay? And where I am, it's illegal by law. So now I have, quote, reasonable articulable suspicion or probable cause to get in the vehicle and search it, and depending on the case law and the state law, maybe I've got a right to get in the glove compartments and in the trunk. Somewhere during this search, I find $10,000, okay? And because that this man or woman or family can't, you know, I'm now invading their privacy, their private life, and saying, you've got to tell me where this money comes from. And say the man says, we have saved this money for years and years and years, and we carry this money around with us because we never know what we're going to get into, and we don't want to leave it in our home. What if our home gets broke into? So we carry it around with us. Okay, some people say, well, that's crazy, but it's against the law. No. Well, here's what the average agency is going to do. They're going to say, well, we're going to seize that money, and we're going to seize your car, and we're going to put you and your family on the side of the road. So we're going to keep your car for using in the commission of a crime, and we're going to seize this money. Now, we don't charge you with nothing. That's outright theft of your car and outright theft of your money. Okay? Now, for example, they're going to say, you're going to have to get a lawyer and sue us to get this back. Well, chances are, if that's all your money, you ain't got no dang money to get a lawyer to sue them to get your assets back. And if you do, you're going to spend $3,000, $5,000, or $10,000 to get $10,000 back. And so what's the police department do? They're just like, oh, well, we lost one. Some we win, some we lose. But it allows them to continue the same unlawful behavior in the name of the Patriot Act. I hate that thing. I hate it. It violates people's rights. And law enforcement, if you really, really, really go back, 9/11, George Bush created this Patriot Act. Okay, that was something that should have been in place for a year or 2 years for a very limited amount of time and not reach out near as far as it did. It could have done certain things probably lawfully, but it's so far overreached and it's still the law. So now when you go to a bank, they say you got to do this, this, and this to do bank. Well, in this world, and quote, in this day and time, you just about 99% have to deal with a bank or a financial institution at some point. Okay, I mean, you can do without it, but it so disrupts your life and it lowers your quality of life so badly because this Patriot Act. So they're gonna get some drug kingpins. Great. They're gonna stop some, interstate or international crime. Okay. But are you gonna nab this year 4,000 hardcore criminals, but you're gonna violate the rights of 300 million people? You're gonna violate our Constitution. You're going to violate our state constitution, violate state citizens' rights. I ain't giving up an ounce of my liberty for a pound of your protection. I'll protect myself. Okay, the only thing that in the Constitution says that we have the militia to protect the people, and the government can have a standing navy, and they can call up people in time of need for the military. We wasn't meant to have a year-round military and to police the damn world like we do. Okay? But the Patriot Act is what allows police to do a lot of things that they do that's unconstitutional. So repealing the Patriot Act, and it's not a patriotic act at all. It's an unpatriotic act. And it's caused a lot of people's careers. It's caused a lot of divorces. It's caused a lot of havoc for a lot of people over and over and over and over. It is one of the most unconstitutional things I've ever seen. There are portions that's constitutional, but most of it disrupts life. It creates havoc in business. It creates havoc for churches, for citizens, because in the name of national security, we can do all these things that violate all your rights. I say no. But it takes the people to rise up to say no. If I say no, they just kill me. If you say no, they just kill you. 10 of us stand up, they kill us, we meet misfortune. If 1 million of us, 2 million, 3 million stand up, they start getting a little nervous, especially if it's spread out across the country and there's groups of 100 here and 100 there and a few hundred here and a few hundred there, and they got congressmen that are starting to listen to them and governors. Then the government, the bureaucrats and people that's in these lifelong government jobs, the people's jobs, they start getting nervous. They start thinking about redoing things. Okay, but we got to have that 3%. That's going to be about 9 million people, something like that. We got to have about 9 million people that are going to stand up like they did when we had the revolution and took this country over from England. And I pray that it's nothing violent, but we can stand up and raise our voices up very high in unison, and we can work together instead of fighting against each other, which is what the government teaches people to do. They teach this class warfare where if you're white, fight against black. If you're rich, you fight against the poor. If you're Baptist and then there's Catholic, you fight against each other religiously. Whatever. It's walk of life warfare is what I call it. You got the people doing so much infighting over here. You can't see what the government's doing over here that's going to come down and hurt the people. Well, I'm Damon Chief Jones. My PayPal is Damon4040@yahoo.com. That's my PayPal. I'm also asking you to join the Self-Defense Fund. www.selfdefensefund. If you throw a rock, you pull a knife, you use a gun, you use a baseball bat, you use a dirt dagger, you do anything in self-defense, or these police try and charge you with any of these things and use your gun to criminalize you, these people are going to defend you. Nobody, no group, no organization in the United States of America, God bless America, is going to come and protect you. Self-Defense Fund does. Okay, I belong to them. I know the NRA is not perfect, but the more people like me that join and voice our opinions, the better it gets. So I have rejoined them. I belonged to them as a young man for about 10 years or so, but I joined them again. The Gun Owners of America, I have joined them. The National Association for Gun Rights, I have joined them. But as an auditor, as a man or woman that carries a gun on your side, if you don't belong to Self-Defense Fund, www.selfdefensefund.com, it's not a smart thing to do. I know the national director. He's squared away. He knows what time it is. They're the one that's helping take care of C.J. Grisham's case. He's doing good because of them. Okay, I know Andy, the marketing director, he's squared away and he takes care of things on his end just like he's supposed to. These people don't give you lip service and leave you hanging. They're the real deal. As a retired chief of police, I don't know what cop might be rogue out there and might try to arrest me. I've got all the standard protections of the Second Amendment like every American. I've got my state constitution to protect me. I've got whatever legislative laws that protect me. Then I've also got the federal law, HB 218, I think it is. I'd have to look this up. I get my numbers mixed up occasionally with dyslexia. But anyway, I'm protected as an honorably retired law enforcement officer, peace officer. I'm protected also. But I still don't know what sheriff, constable, marshal, or police officer might be rogue, don't understand the law, or they think it's contempt of cop or pissing off the police, and it's going to be a special feather in their hat if they arrest a retired chief of police on some gun charge that they're going to get promoted. It's going to be big, so I might be the big kahuna, you know? So Self-Defense Fund's got my back, so I can't support them any harder than I do. So as a retired chief of police, a constitutional man, a man of honor, integrity, and decency, Self-Defense Fund is what I look for my whole life to join and belong, even when I was a cop. Because if I had have had to use my gun in the line of duty and some prosecutor wanted to make a case out of me and said I did something wrong, or people wanted to sue me or whatever, self-defense fund. Okay, that's what I needed, even when I was a cop. Okay, so if you're a good and honest cop, go there, join them, look them up. If you can, and you would, do me a favor and use the promo code CHIEF. CHIEF, one word, CHIEF. Because I'm an affiliate. So one thing, if enough people join, they could help sponsor my YouTube here, which would be a big help. They could also fund some of my travels to self-defense fund activities, or maybe in conjunction with Open Carry Texas, they might be having something going on, and I could go there as an affiliate, so they could help defray expenses. It could help me to be in a position one day not to have to ask nobody to contribute. I have done everything I know to monetize on here now, but supposedly YouTube is about 30 to 60 days behind on processing monetization. So if I continue to grow and YouTube finally does get in and monetize me, and then like Self-Defense Fund becomes a sponsor of my program, then I can go do what I do and not have to ask anybody for any money to help out with my expenses. So even when people give me money, I usually wind up still spending a portion of my money. For a long time, I spent my own money doing everything 100%. So I've already gave my good word out to my good buddy Nigel Frazier. Thank you, shout out. Anybody, and I said this before, I do not give out names publicly, not even a first name, nothing, for people that contributed to my PayPal without your expressed written consent that says, I'm Joe Blow and I gave $5 and I want a shout out. I'll give it to you, but you're going to have to send me an email to Damon4040@yahoo.com, the same place you gave it, so I can go back and look at my PayPal account and make sure it's legitimate, that it's really you really did contribute. It's the same email attached with your PayPal donation, and it's the same name and everything. And I'll give you a shout out, but tell me, you can use my first name Ben, or you can use my last name Jones, or you can use my first and last name. I give you a shout out. I promise I'll do it. It's not no thing. I support some people, and I say, don't throw my name out. Okay, some people I say it's okay, because I sometimes do things out front. Sometimes I want to be behind the scenes. Some of you have told me specifically, you said, don't mention my name. I'm going to help you. I'll even give you $100, but don't mention my name. Some people said, all I got's $5, and I said, well, hallelujah, praise the Lord for $5. Okay? So, y'all, in essence, paid the super majority of my expenses to Texas and back. Yeah, I come out with a little bit, but not too much. But I had such a great time. Thank y'all so much. I got to work with Andy Valadez. He's a great guy with Self-Defense Fund. He does their marketing. He's an outstanding individual. I got to meet with the amazing Doc Green. Again, amazing Doc Green from the Amazing Doc Green Show that originates out of Houston, Texas. And sometimes on live streams or whatever, they'll have 50 to 60,000 people on there. So he gets the word out. And matter of fact, Self-Defense Fund sponsors his program, and they run their ads over there. I'd like to run the ads over here. And hopefully I will be able to. But it's going to be, if you go there and you subscribe and you use my promo code so that I get credit. Okay, then they'll sponsor my show, and I got some funds to go do some of this stuff. And there's some people ask me to go to Kentucky. I'm ready to go to Kentucky. But you know what? I got about $30 towards going there. out of my own pocket. I'm contributing the first $30 to about a half a tank of gas for my truck. It takes about $60 filled up. So I put in the first half a tank. Okay. There's some people asked me to go over in South Oklahoma. Okay. There's some people just north of Texarkana that asked me to go there. There's different places I can go. But one, I got to have money. Two, I have to have another auditor or somebody that's backup to work with me in that area, okay, that's got my back. I got to work with some attorney in that area in case things go wrong. I got to work with a bail bond agency because I got a family I got to go home to. Plus, I have to make provisions for my son who's special needs. And then some of y'all know and some don't that my wife was in a serious car accident a couple years ago, so I have to help her with certain things as well. So I have a lot of responsibilities at home. So I would be out even more than I am. So I have to take care of my family responsibilities and then help in my community responsibilities and church responsibilities as a pastor and a minister. But my wife encourages me to help all the people I can. But sometimes I get too many irons in the fire. Well, I'll just call this the Damon Chief Jones Power Hour or Happy Hour. Now, I don't know what I'm going to call it, but hope you like it. I'm coming up on an hour now. That's about as much as I can watch of somebody's YouTube continuously and don't lose my focus. Sometimes I have to watch 20 minutes at a time and stop it and go back and watch the next 20 minutes, and I do it over an hour or two. I watch some here, some there, between my chores and things I have to do at home. So thank you. God bless you. If you could help my PayPal account, it's an ongoing thing. I save up my funds. I don't waste them. I bought a GoPro camera, and I was trying to get it set up, and I had some problems with it, which nobody else probably in the world but me would have problems with it, but I did. I'm electronically challenged a little bit. Not a crazy amount, but a little bit. Anyway, the auditor's coming today. It's going to help me set up my GoPro the way it's supposed to be, and then I get my chest harness. I went a couple places, and they was out of them before when I was headed to Texas. So, people that contributed to PayPal, that's part of what the money went to is that GoPro, so I need to use it to rightly use your donation, which y'all told me you said I want to, but that was one of the things. So I put in a little money in it. Y'all put in most of the money. So we're going to bring you videos with it. Hopefully today will be the first time I get some good 4K video. Of course, YouTube, I think, it's only 1080. But anyway, it's still more clear if I can get it. Well, thank you. Be praying for us. And I should be able to be dropping some videos along the way. All this coming up week and maybe next week. Depends on how much material we get over the next 2 days. But if my friend the auditor can help me edit some of this, I will edit some of it for the first time and maybe compress it. Thank you. God bless you and have a great day in the name of Jesus, our Lord and Savior. Amen.